Hello and welcome back to Digit.in. My name is Vignesh and let's take a look at the laptop we have here. Now this here is the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Extreme and it launched in India only a few days ago. Now let me tell you what it is. It's a mean, sleek machine that's got an i7 processor. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM and it's got a 1 terabyte SSD inside it. Well, to add to all of that, it's also got a GTX 1050 Ti GPU. Whew, this thing comes loaded. And you know what else? It's more expensive than the hatchback iDrive. Anyhow, let's see how it actually fared in our review. Let's talk about the build and design of the X1 Extreme. Like its X series brethren, the ThinkPad X1 Extreme has a large, all-black graphite carbon fiber top cover that's both pleasant to look at and hold. It offers sufficient grip when you're lifting it off a tabletop or holding it in your hand. The neatly tapered base is made of an aluminum alloy that's equally grippy. Like most ThinkPads, the exterior surface of the device seems clean and hard-wearing. The X1 Extreme should be able to take a few scratches and minor falls in its stride. That said, you're still going to want to handle this machine with a lot of caution. It's nearly impossible to open the ThinkPad's lid with the push of just one finger because you'll have to wrestle it open with your elbows or your nose or whatever. Once you open the lid, you see a nice glossy 15.6-inch display with noticeably slim bezels around it. The area around the keyboard and the touchpad feels soft and is comfortable for long hours of typing. Next to the keyboard is a circular power button and a match in-sensor fingerprint scanner which works swiftly during sign-ins. The scanner authenticates within the sensor and does not share fingerprint data with the operating system. In summary, the ThinkPad X1 Extreme is built excellently. Now this review unit here is the top of the line variant, which means it has a 15.6-inch display with an eye-popping 4K resolution. But straight away you can tell the colors are oversaturated. Major colors like red, blue and green appear particularly darker than they are. According to our display test, the X1 Extreme's display produces 100% of the colors on the sRGB color scale and the Adobe RGB color scale. The screen is otherwise bright enough for use in sunny outdoor spots like balconies. If anything, it's quite reflective because of the glossy finish. Audio from the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Extreme's two downward-firing speakers is loud enough for playing music and movies at home and at work. Though there's very little bass output, violins and trumpets can be heard easily from a distance of say 6 or 7 meters from the laptop, even when the environment is quite noisy. Basically, the ThinkPad speakers will do the job for you when you've left your headset at home and suddenly want to Skype call somebody. There are plenty of ports on either side of the X1 Extreme's body. On the left, there's a proprietary Lenovo power port, two Thunderbolt 3 ports, full-size HDMI port, a network extension port, and a 3.5mm audio jack for headsets. On the right, there's a smart card reader, a 4-in-1 memory card reader, two USB 3.1 ports, and a Kensington lock slot. Let's move on to the keyboard and the touchpad. Though the ThinkPad X1 Extreme is a proper 15.6-inch model, Lenovo has dropped the number pad from the keyboard. The one thing I'm not a fan of is the hardness of the keys on this keyboard. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still very much a signature ThinkPad spill-proof keyboard, which means the keys have the right amount of travel, pitch, and backlighting brightness. But Lenovo has fiddled with the resistance of the keys, making them harder to press than on other ThinkPad models. As is the case with most ThinkPads, the X1 Extreme gets dedicated home, end, page up, and page down keys. The ThinkPad X1 Extreme's touchpad uses a combination of Windows 10's precision drivers and Synaptics software to provide a mostly pleasant touchpad operation. Multi-finger taps, swipes, and clicks can be customized in Windows settings. There are moments when the pointer refuses to move on at the first swipe, but the overall experience is mostly pleasant nonetheless. The X1 Extreme also gets the good old track point and middle mouse button. The track point works without any fuss and the buttons click easily. Now, let's move on to the performance of the laptop. The review unit of the ThinkPad X1 Extreme performed everyday tasks with a great deal of ease. Activities like heavy browsing, video watching, and writing were a cinch. I regularly cycled through half a dozen Chrome windows, each containing 20 or more tabs, mind you, iTunes, Windows Store, and File Explorer without facing any hiccups. I performed multiple CPU-intensive activities like app installations when an HD video was playing online, only to see the X1 Extreme handle it all with aplomb. Gaming was a mixed bag on the X1 Extreme review unit. Doom ran on ultra settings at 4K resolution at 20 frames per second or less. Lowering the graphics to medium bumped the frame rate up by about 10 frames per second. At full HD resolution, Doom was locked at 60 frames per second no matter what the graphics settings were set to. Metro Last Light ran rather badly on the ThinkPad. At 4K resolution and with the graphics turned all the way up, the game ran at about 7 frames per second. When I set the resolution to full HD and brought the graphics down to low, the frame rate climbed to about 25 frames per second. While running Metro Last Light, at no time did the frame rate touch 30 frames per second. Though equipped with a capable graphics card, the X1 Extreme review unit sputtered and stalled while displaying some Windows animation. The temperature of the CPU package rose to nearly 80 degrees Celsius every now and then, especially during app installs. Luckily, it wasn't felt on the base of the device, but the cooling fans, which turned on every few minutes, were distractingly noisy. Now, let's look at the battery. I was apprehensive about the ThinkPad X1 Extreme's battery life at first, what with its heavy powertrain inside and its 15.6-inch 4K display. Surprisingly, it fared quite well during everyday use, with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth enabled, screen brightness set to 70%. The X1 Extreme ran at least 10 instances of Chrome, with each having 20 tabs open and music playing from YouTube constantly, background Steam installations and file transfers happening on battery completely. With all of the above going on, the battery dipped from 100 to 26% in 4 straight hours. Charging back to near 100 happened in 1 hour, 25 minutes, which is pretty swift. On our standard battery benchmark test, however, the X1 Extreme scored an average 3 hours, 35 minutes. All things considered, the battery on the X1 Extreme is pretty strong. Well, all things considered, I think the X1 Extreme is a very, very capable machine that's overpriced, because you can get the same sort of specs on a 2 lakh machine. Consider the ZenBook Pro 15, for instance. You get all of it at a much lower price. Nonetheless, if what you must have is a ThinkPad, then yes, you should get the ThinkPad X1 Extreme. See you in the next video. Do not forget to subscribe. Ta-ta.